look, you're absolutely wrong, and I don't care. I'm not listening to you, and I'll see you when I see you. I remember thinking, man, either he's spot on right or, he's crazy.
It's taking those Lego bricks apart and then putting them back together. It just gives you such a good perspective.
The big thing that I'll always preach to people that we did is being scrappy. Like, find that own way for you. Luck will come to you if you're really pushing and you're looking for it.
And if you want to come along for the story, and if you want to ask me questions, you want to dive in, like, I'll talk all day long about where we're headed, and I can see the vision. Oh, there he is.
What's going on?
How you doing?
I'm good. How you doing?
I always love the ClickUp logo right above your head. I feel like I should get I don't have anywhere to put it, but maybe I should have like a little stand or something where I could get a neon stack list, like, or just the like mark.
I got the website when you're ready, man. I've got it. Echo Neon. I tried them all. I ordered like 3 before I had this one that I like.
Echo Neon. All right, I'm grabbing that if the AI can hear me. Echo Neon. We're gonna find a link. We're gonna put it in a stack for this episode. How you doing?
I'm great. Looks like the light's coming in a little strong. But yeah, I'm good, man. I got a big week. We got a lot coming out with ClickUp, man. There's so much going on. It's hard to keep up.
That's amazing.
Again, because we're trying to build AI as well. So we're looking to raise it to speak to kind of really go into the AI agent space. So
nice. Well, yeah, we are too. I think that's the thing,
everybody
right?
is, right?
Figure out how to get the little micro automations to do everything behind the scenes, which is crazy. Well, you had a big weekend recently too, right? How did that go?
Man. Lot going on. So it was good. We went to Tony, planned out our life, the future. Changed.
So what was Tony Robbins like? What was the thing? What was the setup?
It was big. It was actually a little less intimate than I realized, but it's called Date with Destiny, and essentially, you kind of plan out your life. Each day focuses on different aspects of your life, and he goes deep. Like he literally interviews people like live, and kind of helps them find through their problems. But I think it's really about like building the proper habits, like knowing who you want to be.
What was your biggest 2 insights?
Yeah, I think the biggest for me is like it's easy to start getting into the task, right? And just every day wake up and be like, I have to do. I have this notebook right here with all my things I need to do. And I think rather than doing that, it's better to wake up and really get yourself in the right state. That's like one of the big things is get your energy right, get your mind right.
Yeah.
So, do something moving, think about who you want to be, think about what you want to accomplish. And then, I think just spending more time to actually plan things, like actually sharpening the tool rather than just going and chopping off the wood, because it's very easy to just have so many things to do and just start moving through those things.
Right.
Rather than, I think if I took time and planned a little more at the end of each day, at the beginning of each day, and really took time to know what I'm spending every single moment on, I think it'll make a big difference in what I'm going after.
Yep. No, I could see that as well. I feel like one of the things I've talked about a lot is this idea. I don't know how another better way to say it, but it's sort of getting trapped in the matrix, right? Where you get in this, like, whether it's like at school or a job or even in a relationship or whatever it is, that you sort of cycle through it so much, and the world becomes smaller, and that's kind of all that you focus on, and little things become huge things and problems, whatever. And usually something like a life thing will happen, or someone will pass away, or whatever it is, and it sort of destroys this whole thing, and you go like, okay, wait a second, what do I actually? But figuring out how to have that happen on a regular basis, I could see, or even to your point, I think on a daily basis, if you can figure out how to sort of not be on the hamster wheel and sort of sit down every morning and go like, okay, wait, fresh day, fresh perspective. What am I doing? What I want, and sort of try and break the matrix daily. I could see how that would be so huge.
Escaping the matrix. That's what everybody wants to do, right?
Yep. Because it's one of those that, like, and I love it. I used to change jobs every 2 years because, like, I would get in a position where it felt like, upper management would be like, hey, if you just hang out and keep doing what you're doing for a number of years, we'll look and see if we can kind of bump you up the ladder or whatever. And I'm like, wait. And so you leave, and immediately you can sort of like start something elevated, and you talk to a new person, a new group, and they're like, why don't you come in and do this VP level job or whatever? And you're like, wait, why didn't I get that in the last place? And so it's taking those Lego bricks apart and then putting them back together. It just gives you such a good perspective.
Yeah, I remember thinking, I think the big question is always like, do you start, when you get out of college, do you start at a big company? Do you start a startup? And I really like the path I took. I started at a large company, Cvent, right? And So you get all the skills. They're already a big company. You learn a lot. You can move up quick. And then, I think after that, like I stayed at Cvent until I got all my stock. The company went public. So it was a great start. I was one of the youngest managers there, saw the
Nice.
company go public. I learned a ton. And then I went into the startup world, right? And then because I felt like I had that base, I had that experience, I had that training. And then I went because the startup is where you can really make, larger money. Because I could have stayed at, I remember my parents thought I was crazy because I was like, hey, I'm going to leave this job, and I
Yep.
was the man there. I knew everyone. I had great opportunities there. And they were like, hey, we'll move you up to director and VP, probably like a 10-year track. And I was like, man, I don't know. It just seems like a long time, 10 years to give away.
Totally.
And, so I told my family I was going to work for my friend from college and we are just going to do a little startup. And they were like, they thought I was losing my mind. Like I remember she had my grandfather who was a VP at Energizer, like called me and just tell me this is wrong. I was like, I greatly respect how you did it, but I just think things are different now. And
Yep.
best decision ever, right? Because that guy was Zeb Evans, who's founder of ClickUp. So great thing I went to work with him and we did an agency and kept scaling and trying things.
That's amazing. Yeah, well, I had a similar sort of thing. I went to work for, well, I went to junior level computer class in college, and they handed out a syllabus, and they said, today we're learning Microsoft Word. And I stood up and I never went back. School. I was like, I'm out. I was like, I could do
Peace.
this on a weekend at Barnes and Nobles. So I was just like, so I had a friend who was selling web hosting at Interland, which turned into like web.com. But this was like back when people are trying to sell like Cobalt rack servers and like, and you got to get a website and domain names and all that sort of stuff. And people are like, what is this? And is this the new frontier? And I was selling, yeah, hand over fist. I was like making big commission checks, and I'm the one
Right.
sort of like, drinks on me, everybody, or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
But then as the bubble started to burst and things started to sort of fall apart, we had a football field worth of people in there, and that got compressed down into like just a handful of people. And I'm like, I'm gonna go do something else. But I also talked to my manager at the time, and I said I'd like to talk about management, and she was like, well, you're only 21, you don't need to worry about management or whatever. And I'm
Yeah.
like, so I left and went and did my own like web design and development agency. And same thing, at first when I left school, they were like, what do you mean you're going to go like work at this like web hosting, you know what I
Yeah.
mean,
Like,
like
what are you talking about?
kind of thing? And then I was making really good money, and they were like, okay, well, this seems good. And then I'm like, okay, I'm out. And they're like, wait, you're making good money? No, like,
Why? What are you doing?
but it's been an interesting journey to basically like just learn all the different things, you know what I mean? Like throughout the journey. So that's so cool. So you basically you went to work for a company, and then you left that to go work, and that's where you met Zeb.
Yeah, so I met Zeb actually in college. So we were
Okay.
friend we were close friends in college. We were always bored, and we just felt like that what they were teaching us was behind. And so we actually started managing a rapper. That was our first little thing we did together. He's from my hometown. He still works for ClickUp today, and
Nice.
we just saw he had a lot of talent, and we were bored. So at the time, you couldn't get all online classes. We went to Virginia Tech, and
Hmm.
they made it impossible to get all online classes. But Zeb, being the genius he is, he built a bot that like quickly applied for all the online classes very fast before like it was possible to. So we had online classes. We took a semester and like, just worked, online and did this whole rap thing. We went on tour. We got to open up for like Wiz Khalifa, Mac Miller. It was cool. We actually had some success with it. And from
That's
that,
amazing.
that's where we figured out like the next part. And we realized how important social media was because we were booking him via social media. And
Hmm.
so that's when we started an agency together. And then I went to go start my real job at Cvent. And then I remember after a year, Zeb, Sky man, he was behind me. He's I don't think I want to graduate, man. Like I don't know, it's like how much do you make in the real world? That's one of my salary. And he's like, I think I can make that in like a month in this
Right.
job. And I'm like, well, keep me posted. I'll help you on the side. So while I was at Cvent,
Sign
I,
me up.
yeah, so I'm working on the side for him. And then once I got my stock and I learned everything, I'm like, hey, let's come down and grow this more. So I went down to work with him full time. And yeah, that was our first venture. We were in Charlotte, North Carolina, and we had a social media agency.
That's amazing. So you and Zeb had something before that also helped sort of solidify that kind of working relationship and rhythm and all those sort of pieces. What was the sort of division of labor, and what did he focus on? What did you focus on?
Yeah, I mean, look, Zeb's always a genius. He's kind of the you of the product. He's the visionary. He builds everything out. He had built the back and he had built everything. I've always kind of got in where I fit in. I was sales at the beginning of my career. Similar to you. So I'd been doing sales at Cvent. I had managed a sales team there. So I came and it was running sales and really doing customer service as well. I always had an axe for customer service. I enjoyed giving like really good customer service. And I thought it could lead to sales as well. So I
Yeah.
was managing sales and customer service. for the agency. And then same thing, like we started an app, after that, Zeb had a near death experience and he was like, I don't want to just be these guys who help people grow on social media. I want to change the world.
Right.
So then we decided to build a social media app called Memory, because at the time, Snapchat was the hottest app out, but it had this fatal flaw in that 7 seconds and bam, it took away your best memories.
Right.
So we built this app. We got a team together. We put some money that we made from the agency. Agency's doing really well, and we moved to Palo Alto, California. I drove myself and another colleague. We got a big what do you call it? Not a U-Haul, but a bigger one, like a very big truck, and put all the
Camper
office
van.
Yeah, basically, like almost like an RV.
Yeah.
And and I had to act like I had a license for it, and I didn't. And I rented it, and we drove this thing across country. It was so wild. I remember just turning the wheel, and it was crazy. The whole back would move. But
The
we took
first hour, you're just nervous as all get out.
I was so nervous. It started raining, of course, as we were going through Atlanta. I was like, this is gonna be rough. But we got through, didn't have any problems. And we moved the whole office there. So we moved to Palo Alto, California. We moved into a house just like Silicon Valley, and this was our mission. We're gonna build this app Memory. And it started off really well. We had a lot of positive feedback. People were loving the app. The app was clean. But then
Nice.
Snapchat came out with Snapchat Memories. And it was completely ripped off our part of it, added in, and we
Yep.
lost everything. And yeah, that's when we had to pivot. We had to figure it out. And we have two different options. We basically had built like a very rough version of ClickUp for ourselves.
Mhm.
And then Zeb was very interested in going after the like OfferUp or that space, like the new Craigslist. But we ultimately decided to go with project management, which most people thought was the craziest route, the toughest route, but it worked out.
So that sounds very similar. So you had something internally similar that you would use for yourself?
Exactly. We were so Zeb hated that, like, developers like Jira and then marketers use Asana. And he's like, I'm sick of logging in like 8 different tools. I'm just going to make them use one because I don't like logging in, logging out. Da, da, da. So we just built this thing that we call Mission Control Center. It's basically like version 1 of ClickUp. And we would just use that. And the way that we decided to go to market with it was we were living on a very prominent street in Palo Alto. So like we had the CTO of Facebook here, CEO of Intel here.
Oh, wow.
And they were quite fascinated by us because we were like these young kids that just moved in a house. It wasn't a cheap house. We were making pretty good money.
I'm sorry, is this your uncle's house or is someone?
That's what they said.
Like,
When we were moving in,
are you setting up for someone else?
Yeah, is this your grandpa's? And who are you moving this for? Because they were very, they all want to know who was living across from them. And so they were very fascinated by us. We were building this startup. And so they all like took interest and would talk to us. And they were like, no one likes their project management. Like no one really loves who they use. So I think maybe it's a risky one, but you should go after it. So that's what really got us confident in win the space.
I love that. It's so very similar with Stewart and Slack, right? That it basically evolved from an internal tool that they were using, and then they went, "We're going to pivot. How about this thing we've been
Similar
using?"
time frames too. We started
wow.
Slack was our neighbor, and we lived right across. We had an office after Palo Alto. We had an office in San Francisco, and then right next door was Slack. It was kind of cool to. Obviously they had a faster growth than us, but it was cool to see that and see the possibilities of what could happen in tech. We have very similar. I think people shouldn't be afraid to pivot. Obviously,
Yeah.
not always. Stay true to your product, but I think it was the best thing we ever did. If we just kept trying to build Memory, I don't know what would happen, and if we went a different route, I have no idea what I'd be doing today.
Yeah. What was the first week or the first moment? Do you remember that sort of pivot away from memory to someone says you should go after project management, or there's a conversation, breakfast or call over coffee that's sort of like, hey, I think we should take this thing. And like, what was the first sort of like catalyst that really started like the ClickUp sort of motion towards, the first year?
Yeah, I would say it was, the catalyst that really got us going was really just talking to some of our neighbors and them saying like, hey, you have a chance at this. And then I think Zeb looking at the space and he started really obsessing with playing around with the tools, and we all did. And that's when we quickly realized like, hey, like these tools aren't that great. They're not shipping that fast. Like how you are with Stackless, like shipping every week is a big thing. And they were
Yeah.
shipping like twice a year. And we
Right.
just thought like, hey, we could build these things. We could do this and we actually have an advantage because we're, they're already built a certain way. We can just start this completely clean slate, completely customizable, just good to go. So that's how we dove in. And then the first moments where I think I knew it was going to work was, I was our first sales rep, and I was just at the beginning just trying to sell it to anyone I could.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, our first customer that came along was Perry Worth. And I've been talking to this guy for a while. He's at Accenture. And I finally kept talking to him. He was like, look, you know what? Like, you guys aren't as advanced as Asana and all that, but I see the way you're shipping. I see the way you're building. I'm going to take a bet on you. I'll pay for, a couple seats for the year. So as
Oh
soon as
wow.
I was shocked, he said yes. I had to make up a pricing on the fly. And I remember running down the house to the hall and be like, hey, we have a deal in. Like, someone's paying for ClickUp. I don't even know how to take his payment. And so that was like the big moment for me that, hey, this is
Here's
going to
my
work.
Bitcoin address.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, what do I do here? That was a big moment for me. So like, okay, someone's actually willing to pay for
Wow.
this. Like, maybe we're on to something. So that was
And Accenture, like, and one of those too, that it wasn't just somebody that you knew down the street, or whatever.
no,
That's really interesting.
none of those people actually paid for us yet. So he was the first one that did. And I'm still good friends with Perry today, man. Great guy. It was cool to make that happen.
That's amazing. So and I guess you also had a good, because you already had a code base and you had something that was working. There's not really that sort of like idea to prototype, to sort of POC to prototype to like, let's kind of build something. You already had sort of a code base of something in there. Was there a little bit of packaging and cleaning and, and production readiness that you needed to kind of go through
Oh
at
yeah.
that point?
We still probably spent 8 months, in like that phase, like getting ready, researching, and definitely changed the look of it because we just made it like bare bones. So we had to make a better look. And then, I think Zeb's big thing was creating different views, allowing you to view all your work in different ways. And that was like the big differentiator for us at the beginning. Cause it used to be like with Asana, you'd have to choose either list view or board view to start. And then you get to work, right? We
Yep.
had it where you create your task and then you could look at a list view, a board view, a box, whatever view you wanted, Kanban, Gantt chart, whatever. And then that's what
Hmm.
I think now a lot of people have had to emulate and go back and do. But that was a big differentiator for us. And the other thing is that we just keep building everything. We really want to be the everything app for work. And at the beginning, that was actually our downfall. So I played basketball in a league in Palo Alto, and this one guy took interest in me as well. So I was always like the youngest. We were like 26, 27 at the time. And he's
Yeah.
like, what are you doing here? And I told him, and he's like, let me come by and see your operation. So I did, and I found out that he was I always noticed people trying to talk to him. He was a big guy at Sequoia. And, we didn't even know about these investment firms or anything yet. We were just from some guys from Virginia and North Carolina. So, he comes by and he's like, you guys are kind of onto something. Would you want to come by, our office? We'll treat you to lunch and all that. So we come in and we're definitely way too early, but we come in and the guy kind of rips us, to be honest. This Sequoia guys, like, look, you guys are like really good at building and a good team, but like one app to replace them all is cute, but it's just never going to happen. Right. So you need to niche down, choose, he told us to niche down. And I love, at the time I thought maybe Zeb, I remember wondering if he was actually right in what he did, but he's like, look, you're absolutely wrong. And I don't care. I'm not listening to you, and I'll see you when I see you. And I remember thinking, man, either he's spot on right or, he's crazy because we could have still made some work with these guys. And sure enough, that was what made us different. And, David Sachs is the one who found us later and first invested in us. But on our Series B, they really wanted in. Sequoia really wanted in and made one of the best offers. And they even sent Zeb like some grill or some gift. I'll never forget, some kind of gift. And he still like politely turned him down because you didn't believe in me, you didn't believe in my vision. So that was a pretty cool moment to see them still want to come back, a very big investment firm and want to invest, but didn't happen.
Wow. Oh, I love that story. And I love hearing, especially the stage that we're at, in the sort of like bootstrap, early small investment angel sort of round of the people that I've met recently that have talked about the fact that I just interviewed Ben Huffman from Contra, and he was saying in the very beginning that people were like, "This is not going to work. This is a horrible
Yeah.
idea." Whatever. And now on their Series A with 800,000 people on the platform. But I think it's one of those. It's really interesting when you go through. I sort of struggle a bit with that. Like, and we just had our deck redone where, and it's much more story format. It's not the Y Combinator format, and I'm actually loving it being a story. And if you want to come along for the story, and if you want to ask me questions, you want to dive in, like I'll talk all day long about where we're headed and I can see the vision and all that sort of stuff. But it almost feels like that process of analyzing a company and just looking at it and being like, oh, that's never gonna work. No, no, no. You're like that, the sort of quick, dismissive sort of like, I see what you are now and it's never gonna work. Um, it's so interesting because I know that those investors have to see so many deals that you have to like make really quick sort of judgment calls on stuff. But I really appreciate the people who sort of take time to go deep and understand what the vision could look like and how you would approach it and things like that, versus the sort of like I can tell you that's never going to work, then I love the pushback on that as well.
That's the people you want to invest in, right? The ones that are in the details and are really gonna like listen and go in rather than just take a take on it right away. Because again, I get it. Like they see a ton of things. So I know
Yeah.
they can't invest in everything. But yeah, I mean it's at the beginning we weren't even gonna take funding. So I think we got to like 20 mil, 22 mil in ARR, ourselves. So we were okay. But I think if we really want to fight these giants, we realized we had to. And David Sachs was a guy who made us realize that.
Wow. And so what was that time period again when you sort of like you close the Accenture deal, you work on it for 8 months, you sort of get it into a good place, and then what was the Sequoia sort of period in there? What
Yeah.
was that the linear progression of sort of you move out there, you have some discussion, you sort of sell Accenture, and then you knew that that was enough to sort of get you going, so you could focus on it, get it production ready, and then was it long after that that the Sequoia conversation happened?
Yeah, I think Accenture was 2016, and then I wanna say 2017 is when we had that convo.
Okay, great.
So
So
not
within about a year, you
yeah.
went from ideation conversation to, to sort of first sale, kind of proving proving that you could get clients around it to then production ready to then Accenture and starting to have investment
Yeah, I
conversations.
wanna say it was like 7 months, and then once I got the first deal, more kept coming, and more kept coming,
Yeah,
and,
yeah. Oh, I
it just
imagine
kept
that.
snowballing, and we had some cool moments, like, the way I would get leads is we built this tool called AppGator, and what AppGator would do is it would pull reviews from all my competitors, and anytime someone gave, like, a 3-star or below, maybe a 2-star, 1-star, on Capterra or GitApp or Trustpilot, I would get a notification. I could find them on LinkedIn. And so I'd hit
Yeah,
them up like, hey, look, I get you hate, Trello or Asana. We built ClickUp for this reason. I'd love for you to try it out. Right. And I'd have them try it out and, try and sell them. And that's kind of how I started going after my leads. So we were very scrappy, early on. It was just me as a sales rep. If I needed like a solutions engineer, I'd have to bring on Zeb, or maybe our CTO. So it
yeah.
was, we didn't really have a ton of employees and we were doing the customer service. Like even Zeb was still in there responding to tickets. So we were super scrappy at the beginning. And then after I'd say the next pivotal moment for us where we really had to start hiring employees was we were now in San Francisco. We had some customers, not making a ton of money, but making some money. But we're in an office in San Francisco, feeling like this would propel our growth. And we used to just scour, all the competition, all the websites, everything. We were in this Facebook group for Productive. Productive was a competitor of ours, and they just announced one day they were going to shut down and they were not building an export. So everyone
Oh,
was going to lose all of their work in like a month. And so our CTO was like, man, I think I can build that export in time. And so he just stays up, works crazy hours. And so we pop in the Facebook group. I was so happy to type this message. I was like, hey, look, I know you guys have like 1 week left and you're scampering to figure out where you're going to put your data.
yeah.
Here it is. Here's an export. We'll take all of you. And if you need help, we'll walk you through it. And so we took all the customers they had, which, it was big difference for us. So all of a sudden we had a much nicer, like client list. And I think
Nice.
either before or after that too, Zeb was kind of like, "Hey, look, we're running out of money." And I'm like, I'm the sales guy, so I'm like, "I gotta figure something out." So I really hustled and I went through all my deals, and that's when I closed our first logo. That was Home Depot. So I
Oh,
closed
wow.
that, then I closed Randstad, all within like the same time frame. Then we had this happen. So we went from like, even though we weren't really, I didn't know that secretly he had put in another like 1.2 million on a convertible note. He had
Hmm.
some more put up to, but he was just trying to like drive some urgency and see what it did. And it was genius because then all of a sudden we were profitable and
Wow.
that was really awesome, and we had money coming in.
That's amazing. Well, that really is that's such an amazing journey. That time frame also you said from and that was post Sequoia discussion. Was that about a year? Another
Yeah, yeah, so
year?
I would say this comes in around, like let's say all this happened around 2019,
So about
2018,
within that first 2 years, yeah,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
when you really started to, like, hit your stride. How did you all obviously, you used ClickUp internally, but how did for shipping fast within a 1-week sort of cycle, when I think about those early teams that really just sort of crank stuff out, what was the sort of philosophy and process for that? Was it sort of Zeb plus 1 other developer and or a designer and really just sort of, like, mind melding and shipping, or what was the process?
Yes, you have Seb, then you have Alex Rakowski, the co-founder and CTO, absolute genius. He was on the, the more, development side, and then he had a couple other people that still work at this company to this day. They're so valuable. He found a couple guys in Ukraine, Sergey, and then Konstantin, and then he had like 2 designers, and that was the team. I mean, they would just move. Maybe a couple other here and there, but they would just move. And this guy Sergey at the beginning was just so funny. Who's now like the number one developer. He was just like a Google like app guy, like was an Android app guy.
Oh yeah, Flutter.
And then yeah, Flood. And he was just it was so funny. He was finishing his task before everyone else and just getting like kind of bored. And so one day, like they came in, I think Zeb was like joking with me. He's like, "Hey, can I just get this done?" And they were like, "Yeah, just go ahead and commit or whatever." I'm not a tech guy, but something like that, like log to commit or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And they said the next day they log in, he had gotten it done, and they like he had taught himself this and got it done. So they started giving him more, and he was just like a 15x developer, and he was just like knocking everything out. So he became like the main guy leading everything, just moving so fast.
Wow.
It was kind
That's
of like a secret
amazing.
weapon for ClickUp. But yeah, Zeb has a lean team. Met with him every morning, 6 a.m. and just move and meet with them in the evening and see what they needed. Just kept it going.
I coming from other places where I've been at that like Accenture type level, or and there's so many like levels and processes and like the time it takes to put the software together just for someone like for the team to start working on stuff. Like there's just so much operational overhead and time spent on that. It's so different when it really is just like a handful of people who have that sort of mind meld around what you're trying to do and just make and ship is there's nothing like that.
Nothing. And
It's so
the best part was, I should have told you this too. I guess his mindset is very similar to yours. It was just ship it. Like there'd be bugs, there'd be things, there'd be problems, but we turned into a positive, right? Like we would give people free ClickUp if they found the bugs. So basically like a free bug team. And we were able to ship so fast. So there was a little error here and there, fine. And if we fixed it, we let them know immediately, hey, we fixed it this fast. Thank you. We care about this. We'll have a larger bug team soon, but we appreciate it. I think to this day we still do it. Like now we ship and we working on staging. So we'll see the problems first. It'll be in staging first, and then we'll see
yep,
it. Now we can kind of catch it. So
nice.
we're always going to
No,
be like the culture. I think just push, push, push.
that's so great. Our mobile developer, we kind of call him the Terminator, but he is that sort of. He was playing basketball like a couple of weeks ago and went to swat down a basketball and caught one of his fingers. And it's been in a cast
No.
for like weeks. And so literally like last week he shipped like 3 or 4 builds, but every time we meet with him, like he's only got one hand. How are you? Like, how are
That's
you
like
shipping this stuff?
our biggest nightmare is that happening. One of the good developers was that
But literally, like we're ship two mobile builds a week, and he's like this. He just got his cast off,
he's
and
just
so like, yeah, exactly. And so like today, it's sort of you go through a build, and you're like, this is pretty good. I got 2 little notes for you. And within about 5 minutes, like new builds up. I'm like, okay, just let me pivot back. Let me just
you got to keep those people. You got to
totally,
take care of them because
yeah,
I mean it is not the easiest to find what we call like 10x or 20x developers. Because again, a strong developer is worth more than almost any other. In the fact that like you get a 5x marketer, great. Like they can probably do some great things, but a 5x developer or 10x, they can just it's like they can do more than hiring 4 or 5 people because they move so
totally.
efficiently.
Yeah. And our CTO Martina is like that too. We're just basically solving stuff left and right, but lots of things at once, and then everything sort of comes up and out. And we've just been able to move all the way through. It's also so the platform and everything is so stable that we ship on Fridays.
That's
And we're
great.
not worried about it at all because we just like we have had very little to no like reports of stuff, especially after shipping,
We used to
which
ship
is
on
so good.
Fridays. Now it's a little tough. Now we do it on like, now we got to give ourselves a day.
No, I think you should do it just for fun old time's sake, right?
We
6 p.m.
should maybe.
Friday,
I
just
feel
like
like the
ship
team
a
was
bunch
like,
of good.
no more. They were like, we're not doing this. I know you did back in the days, Ed, but this is a different beast now.
Right. Totally. Where do you see sort of ClickUp in the next year or two headed?
Yeah, I definitely see us on the road to going public. That's our mission. That's our goal. That's what we really care about. I see us just adding more and more features that people don't see coming. As I think we've been acquiring some smart companies strategically, um, and I really see our focus in really changing the way that people manage people, and they get the most out of everyone. Because with AI, I think a big part of your employees is knowing that they're being efficient. You're getting the most out of them. So I
Right.
think that's a big focus for us. Um, Also improving a lot of the features we have. That's one thing that we secretly do in stealth, right? Like, so we have whiteboards, and our first iteration of whiteboards was a Miro, no, but we're on V3 now, and they're getting very
Mhm.
strong, very close. Same with docs, so that's what I love about ClickUp. We'll kind of like quickly jump into it. Now we have chat, and now we're going to keep iterating until it's as good, if not better than the competition. That's kind of our move, because it's
Nice.
there. We see what's out there. We see what people want. We see what they need. And then, I mean, ClickUp is mostly dev. Like that's what's different from us. It's not like we're some massive sales team. Our sales team is actually quite small. We believe in the product. We're
Right.
product led. So we're gonna
Yeah.
keep building a great product. We're gonna keep marketing it, and we'll still sell here and there, and go enterprise in a way. But I think we've really built well off SMBs, and agencies love us. So I think the real beauty for us is making sure everyone loves us, everyone can use us, and we're fast as can be.
What's your personal, like, let's jump into the future. You're 50, you're 60, like what are you doing? Are you have you branched, are you doing other things? Are you doing side things? Are you like what would you get into sort of post ClickUp in
Yeah,
the
so
down
I
the
mean, I'm
line?
I'm riding this thing for a while. I mean, the fact that I get to work with some of my best friends is pretty awesome. That we're all there from the beginning, and I like that I've like moved and switched my role. Like obviously, I could have stayed and tried to be VP of sales, but as it got bigger, I knew like, it's funny, I knew, and I kinda had to come to Zeb and be like, "Look, we should probably hire someone who's done this before, right? This is getting big. I've never led anything like this." That's why we brought in Matt Bauman from Pinterest, who's been incredible. And so I love that I was able to move into a role that I love. I can speak on stage, I can run our social, I can make great content, and, I think maybe I can bring more leads that way from building an incredible brand for ClickUp. I feel like I've also my big goal is to solidify myself as the guy who makes the best content in B2B. I really think that's
Nice.
my mission, and I'd love to help other companies with that in the future, and as long as they're not ClickUp competitors. But I think that the world is open for more great content, and B2B always follows B2C, as you know, and you see the trends. But when influencers were first in B2C and it was really heavy, and then now it's come into B2B, and same with what I think now is more creators. I think
Mm.
like having a solid creator, having someone who consistently builds for your brand is the new trend. I think every company will be hiring a creator soon at some point, or not everyone, but most that are trying to fight, because there's only been so much space here to compete with and get attention. So I think content's becoming really important.
I love that you kind of have your own product market fit, right? With your role and your and what you do and what you love and enjoy. Because I think it's one of those that, like, I think just pushing in, just naturally sort of trying to push into other areas where it's not you're right sort of fit in terms of, would you be more stressed, or would you or do you get to do exactly what it is that you love and how you love to do it, and those sort of things um is so smart. And I imagine that you enjoy it a lot more when you've got that sort of control over specifically, like, what you're focused on and how.
I think the thing for me is it's almost like I manifested this role, right? Like I always wanted. It's tough when a company grows, and I've always done sales, and I knew I was good at marketing, but I didn't really have the track record there. So I had to kind of prove that and do it. So I kind of like that I almost had to prove myself within the company and
Yeah.
show that I could do this new part. And I'm also blessed that they allowed me to do that. Same with Wes. He was our COO early on. And as we grew, he found like a new role. So I honestly I couldn't be happier. And I just really enjoy. Look what we're doing right now. Like we're doing this, and it'll be content, right? Like I think that this is just one of the most fun things we can do, talking and getting better at this skill. That's why I really practice hard at speaking on stage. Wasn't the easiest for me. So now that's like become a very good skill of mine. I love speaking. Yeah, I love speaking to these SaaS conferences and crushing the stage, but that took time. That took practice as well.
What would you like? So looking back to, if you had advice that you would give to somebody that was in that early stage, when you guys moved out to Palo Alto, or leaving the original company and sort of going into the startup, what's like one or two things that you've really sort of internalized that you would pass on to people who are out there sort of thinking about starting something of their own?
The big thing that I always preach to people that we did, and I can give, the prime examples is being scrappy. Like find that own way for you, like, and whether it be building, the tool to get your leads, or, going after and scouring the competition so you find out about someone leave, like I think luck will come to you if you're really pushing and you're looking for it, right? Like obviously the product T thing was kind of lucky, but it also wasn't to me because we were searching, we were scouring, we deserved that. We were paying attention to more than anyone else in the space, and we
Mhm.
were hungry enough to go find a way to build it. So I think no matter what you're in, you're going to have to obsess over it. You're going to have to be scrappy. You're going to have to think outside the box for how to move quicker. And because especially in today's world, right? Like anyone can almost build anything now. So then also be focusing on brand. I think at the beginning, like, again, people have the option to buy from anyone. So the more you're focusing on the brand and building something cool that stands out at the same time while you're being scrappy and getting ahead, that's a perfect formula for success.
Yeah. How's it changed from a sales and marketing perspective when you first started to sort of the environment that we're in now? Obviously, we talked about content creation, but would you lead with content creation and or, like AI tools, or like if you had to sort of do it over again, but with the current set of sort of marketing and go to market approaches?
I would always say lead with the product in mind. I still think I mean, I think luckily we had such a great product-led founder, but the product's gotta be good, right? It's gotta be good, it's gotta look good. I think that's a key too, like, make it look good.
Yeah.
It's gotta be fun to look at. But I think early on getting into getting at least a big thing for us, and it might be changing now with AI, but, was getting really good at that blog content and that written content as well, like, to drive traffic. But anything you can do to get eyeballs, I think is big. Or don't be afraid to try some things outside the box, and also get really good at testing and creating, like, systems, like, really create machines. That's what we do at ClickUp really well. Like with this whole creator thing, like, I followed a process, right? I tested first. I spent little budget first, and now I was able to prove ROI and say, okay, like with this creator, we're getting millions of impressions. And I think if we do a little more and scale this up, we can make, we can make more money. We can make more impressions. And so I think that's how we do it. And everything at ClickUp marketing is that way. If you have an idea, you test it cheaply, and then you fully execute on it later.
Nice. One last thing I'm curious about is like, what's the ClickUp culture, and
Name.
has it sort of changed over the years, or are you remote? How have you sort of kept the culture, or has it evolved, and what is it now?
I think culture is one of the most important things, and we've learned a lot of lessons on culture over the way. We studied a lot as we grew. We studied the whole Netflix model, keep the A players, and all of that. But I think we've kind of built our own new version of it now. And at ClickUp, what we found is we don't care about what college people went to. We don't care about any of that really. It's not a big deal for us. It's not like, oh, you have to go to Harvard to work at ClickUp. And in fact, a lot of the best employees we have now were, like, one was like a camp counselor prior to this. Another one worked at Lowe's. A lot of our early on customers were people who wrote amazing feedback on our candy board. And we were like, wow, they're giving amazing, you should work here. These suggestions are great. Genius. I can name, multiple of Zach Blodgett, Michael Van Dorn, multiple really cool people that were just writing in and, had jobs like Lowe's or Home Depot. I think both of them before, or something funny like that. And now they're like top employees at ClickUp, very high up.
Nice.
And so I think the culture is very, very kind, very like, how can I help? And I think we're very direct in the way that, like, we don't waste time with, if something's not good, we're not going to like sugarcoat it, but we do
Right.
it in a polite way. We follow that from Zeb. I think Zeb really got this in. The more direct we are, like, hey, this is not good work, but we're down to help you get to good work. That's there. Everyone loves to help everyone. It's very friendly. And we're probably about 50-50 in the fact that we have a lot of people in our San Diego office, but still pretty remote as well. So we have a lot of people come into office on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. We provide the food and all that great stuff, but people can come in any day they want. But I'd say Tuesday and Wednesdays are the more packed days. And we also do this part where we still don't understand a lot of the companies remote, and we want that to be fine. It's where we get great talent. What we'll do is, though, we'll say like, okay, maybe once a year, or twice a year, we'll fly out everyone from a team and
Mhm.
just put them up in a hotel, and then we'll give them audacious goals to hit and say, hey, look, if you can hit this, we'll take you out to nice. We still take them out to nice dinners, but we see whatever they can accomplish all together in person. And it builds
Nice.
camaraderie, it keeps people close. We find it's worth the investment every single time. And it's not like we have to rent space. We have the office there. We have
Right.
deals with the hotels nearby. So we have them come in, fly them out, pay for the flights, hotels, and some nice dinners, and get some great work done.
That's amazing. I love that. And
Yeah.
what's your thought on the sort of, there's a lot of return to office, right? Everyone needs to come back in, and everyone's got to come back in, and you can't build anything great, unless people are in the office. What's your sort of take on that?
I love working in the office. Like, I'm a remote employee myself, but mainly because for taxes, it is pretty good to be in Florida, but I still go back a lot. Like every 6 weeks, I'm back in San Diego. I do think you get amazing work done in the office. Like I think there is no replicating what you can do with people, but you can still move very well remote, especially if you have good people who care and want to
Nice.
get it done. So I'm not like some you have to be in the office, but I wouldn't lie and say there's not some benefits to being in the office. Like we see it, but we find ways to do it without forcing, people to live somewhere or
Yeah.
things like that.
Nice. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for your
Yeah, man,
time
this is a
today. Why don't,
blast.
we'll hang on for a little bit, and we'll catch up for a second. But thanks for coming on. It's just so great. And I love hearing all the early stories, and and especially like not niching down and sort of staying true to that gut. And now you've got the eye on IPO, which is amazing. So, we'll be rooting for you and sending all those vibes. And I want to see the picture of the bell ringing at some point.
Same. I always dreamed of that I remember seeing the C-Vent guys in my first company do that. And I was like, I want to do that as well. So I'm hoping I can
Yeah.
do it at a younger age than them. And yeah, man, I'm fans of what you're building as well. And I really, really, sending you all the good energy to see that come to fruition too. Cause I know what phase you're in, and this is really the most fun though. You got to enjoy it. It's tough, but it is fun.
Oh yeah, no, it's so good. It's so good. But I half and half. I long for the future where where millions of people are enjoying it and sharing their favorite things, and I also really enjoy right now, like the three of us just like
It's kind of better that you can move a
cranking
lot
stuff
faster.
out. Yeah. Every other day, the platform and the apps are totally different, which is just so much fun.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
amazing. Cool. Thanks. Well, good to see you.